It's time to change the conversation. Welcome to the Hopefulist with me, Wendy McClure. This is where we turn those nasty, negative thoughts into positive and work toward a happy, fulfilled life. Now, let's get started. Thank you for joining me here on the Hopefulist. This is a bonus episode. I wanted to do a special episode on women and the danger we are in right now. A fear of being told what we can do with our bodies. It's not just a fear, it's a reality. And a fear that we could actually become a society like it is in The Handmaid's Tale. We all read that book or we all watched that series and thought, well, that's just ridiculous. Seems not so far-fetched nowadays. So I think it's time to change the conversation. There's a meme that's been going around with Ruth Bader Ginsburg on it that says, I didn't leave you. I passed you the baton. It's your turn now. Get up and fight. Ladies, this is on us. It's up to us and the men that support us. They're out there. I know that. But the recent passage of the heartbeat law in Texas should worry every person. Every woman, of course, but also any man who has a wife, mother, sister, daughter, or niece. If you aren't familiar with the law, it states that a woman cannot get an abortion after a heartbeat is detected. This is in Texas, which is typically 6 weeks of pregnancy. And it doesn't matter if it was a result of rape, incest, or the fact that it could be life-threatening to the mother. In fact, when the governor of Texas was asked about the stipulation of no exceptions for rape, he said, we're going to work very hard to get all rapists off the streets of Texas. Now, why didn't we think about doing that before? This is the mentality of the men, some of the men that are supporting this law. We will get the rapists off the streets of Texas. I just don't even know what to say about that statement. No matter your stance on abortion, this law should worry you. I understand that people are very passionate on both sides of this issue, and I get a lot of people won't like what I am saying. That is why I want to change the conversation. So it isn't about abortion. It's about being truly pro-life. Because it doesn't make sense to me that people are fighting for the life of a fetus, but don't worry about it once it's born. I don't know many people that want more welfare and children that can't be taken care of. To just say you are pro-life is very misleading in my opinion. My opinion. Pro-life means to me that it's an effort to make sure a child is born, but there is no worry about that life once it is actually in this world. Pro-life to me would mean all lives, not just fetuses. Again, though, let's take the whole abortion issue out of this, okay? Let's just start changing the conversation about how to avoid unplanned pregnancies. Because make no mistake, forcing women to get abortions, to carry babies full term is all about control. Men controlling women and telling them what they have to do with their own body. So let's think about this a little differently. What if we came up with a plan to have men get reversible vasectomies after puberty until they are ready to have children? Then have them reversed. It sounds radical, doesn't it? It may even sound ridiculous. In fact, when I mentioned it to my male neighbor, he actually laughed and said, "There's no way I'm getting surgery." There is no way he would consider a 15-minute procedure that would solve this problem. Yes, I understand there will be a percentage that may not take. Yet women are expected to go through 9 months of pregnancy, whether they want to or not. When you compare the two, what seems more radical? 15-minute procedure that is virtually 100% safe. Not 100%. Nothing is 100% safe. But compared to life-altering conditions that come from 9 months of pregnancy, there's no comparison to this 15-minute procedure. So what seems more radical now? Forcing men to get a 15-minute procedure or women to go through 9 months of pregnancy? Now, don't misunderstand me. I know this will never happen. I know all of the problems with administering such an act. But I'm just trying to change the conversation. If it's radical for men to think about a 15-minute procedure, doesn't it seem 9 months more radical to force a woman to carry a pregnancy to term? Now, the reason it seems so radical is merely because it's never been brought up before. Do you realize why that is? It's because men are still in charge of this country. Men are in the positions of power and are the majority when it comes to making and deciding laws. I did a little research, and it seems there are currently only 24 women in the U.S. Senate. That's a 12% representation. It's a touch better in Congress, where women represent 24%. And in all honesty, it's probably because those positions aren't as powerful as Senate seats. The Supreme Court has 3 seats out of 9, which is a 33% representation. This is why the idea to force men to do anything is so radical. They don't want to be told what to do with their bodies. In fact, I got laughed at. I'm not going to be forced to have surgery. It's okay to force us to carry a baby and deliver it for 9 months. No issue with telling a woman what to do with hers. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was asked once how many women she would like to see on the Supreme Court. When she answered 9, she was met with incredulous, as if that would be ridiculous. She said, "We wouldn't bat an eye if all 9 were men." And she's right. Make no mistake, women are far from being equal in this country, and this law in Texas has just set us back 50 years. Why is it that men have no repercussions in this talk about abortions? Why is it only the women who are potentially punished when it comes to men who are the ones who impregnate her? A man has all of the rights and none of the responsibility. Another example of this, Viagra, that was covered immediately from the get-go by insurance. But women have had to fight for decades for birth control to be covered. And it's still not covered for many. We encourage men to have and enjoy sex. Yet women are still, in 2021, supposed to hold out and not give it up. If they do and get pregnant, then it's on them. It's on them to deal with the lifelong consequence. And let's not forget how many daddies disappear and are never to be heard from again. Again, this whole system is set up that men have it all ways. They get to have sex, free from guilt, because, they're guys, and free from consequence of those actions. Why women are judged and shamed and forced to do things they don't want to do. Doesn't something seem a little off about this? Doesn't it seem completely wrong to you? But yes, let's talk about abortion for a moment. Thankfully, I have never had one. But I know from others what a harrowing experience it is. I have never once seen a woman wake up in the morning and exclaim, "I get to have my abortion today." No, it's not something that we look forward to. Are there women that use it as a form of birth control? Yes, there are a few. But the majority of women painstakingly make this decision when they feel there are no other options for them. So let's talk about some of those situations for a moment that don't even involve rape or incest. I won't even bring that into it. Suppose a 16-year-old girl gets pregnant. Remember, if it's okay for 16-year-old boys to have sex, then it's okay for a 16-year-old girl. So she's an athlete. She's going to be potentially scouted by college recruiters for a scholarship. But now she can't play because she's being forced to carry a child full term. Not to mention all the judgment and potential harassment she may face if she gets to stay in school. Meanwhile, the dad is getting accolades for getting the girl in the sack and his manliness. Seriously, this is how it still is in 2021. Imagine if the girl's even younger than 16. Consider a situation where a woman in her early 20s is in an abusive relationship. She has low self-worth and has a really hard time getting out of this situation. She finally gets the courage to leave him and literally goes into hiding to keep him away from her. Yes, these things happen. I know someone who had to do this. But then a month later, she finds out she's pregnant. If she chooses to have this baby, she will be tied to her abuser for the rest of her life. So whose life is more important? According to this law, the baby's life is way more important than the mother's. If she chooses to put the baby up for adoption, her abuser can stop her from doing that. And she still is tied to him for life. And there's little hope of him not finding out if she's visibly walking around pregnant for months, because even if she doesn't see him, others will see her. And, people talk. Let's think about a single mom of 2 kids who is struggling to make ends meet. She's dating someone. He breaks up with her. Not long after she finds out she's pregnant. She tells the ex-boyfriend. He says he has no interest in being a father. Yes, men get to make that choice. They can be forced to pay child support, but they cannot be forced to be a father. So the woman will have to go on public assistance and may go into even more debt because she doesn't have health insurance. She won't get maternity leave because she doesn't have that type of job. So what does she do? How about a woman who is nearing 40 that is on birth control and somehow gets pregnant anyway? She's married and she can afford to move forward with the pregnancy, but how many women aren't in a position to do that? She did everything she was supposed to, yet became pregnant anyway. Yet again, it all rests on the shoulders of the woman who had the audacity to have sex with a man. Yet the man has no repercussions in the decision to not follow through with the pregnancy. Let's really give this some thought, ladies. Come on. We are acting like we are being punished for having sex. Yet men are getting applauded. This is still the mentality in 2021. I once knew a woman who was in her late 30s and became pregnant for the first time. She wanted that baby more than anything. Her boyfriend told her he had no interest in having a child because he already had a child and didn't want to make them compete with a new baby. This ridiculous statement is coming from the man. Now, she ended up having an abortion because he told her he would end their relationship if she went through with having his baby. Yes, I wish she would have had the baby anyway, but she had her reasons for staying with this man. It is her choice. It is her decision. There are also times when a woman in her 40s and even 50s becomes pregnant. Of course, it's high risk, could threaten the woman's life. That doesn't really seem to matter to this new law. Maybe she had children in her 20s and is ready to start living for herself. And now this. And even if she were to put the baby up for adoption, she goes through 9 months of growing a child with many restrictions and potentially life-altering, threatening issues. Do you think a man would ever consider denying themselves or putting themselves in danger for 9 months for a baby he did not intend to keep? Again, it flashes in my head. Laughter. I'm not going to do any kind of surgery. Laughter. 15 minutes. Laughter. So let's get back to changing the conversation. If we are really talking about pro-life, then we need to take better care of the people who are already here. We need to find a way to stop unwanted pregnancies from happening. And all the ideas will be radical because they've never been discussed before. So let's go back to the idea of having men get vasectomies at puberty. Is that radical? A 15-minute procedure that can be undone whenever he is ready to father children responsibly. I do understand that some men may have issues with it getting reversed, but some women have such horrible pregnancies they can't carry a child again. But nobody worries about that part, do they? Seriously, give it some thought. Is it that radical? This would avoid so many unplanned pregnancies. So much more than any other form of birth control, which is still extremely hard to get in some states. If it's okay for the government to tell women what they can do with their bodies, it seems only fair that men face the same treatment. While we're at it, we need to stop shaming women for having sex. Women are encouraged to be sexual by society from the time they hit puberty, honestly, even before, but they are judged if they actually have sex. It's their fault if they dress sexually. If we are going to send the message that sex is bad, and are we still sending that message in 2021? Then it's bad for both sexes. I say this as I just watched a football game last night with very flimsy outfits on the cheerleaders. Very flimsy. Making them appear very sexy, very sexual. There was the issue recently of women in beach volleyball being fined for wearing shorts instead of bikini bottoms. Why don't men have to wear skimpy outfits? Because they aren't being sexualized. They get to hunt the sexualized and then leave the woman once she finds herself in an unwanted situation. Again, I know men can be forced to pay child support, which can be a pittance, by the way. But you can't force a man to be a father. And I know that all men do not fall into this category. I know there are men out there that are responsible, but there are so many who are not. Does this all sound harsh and unreasonable? I know some of you will feel that way. I know some of you may not like or agree with what I'm saying, and that's okay. But it's time to change the conversation. No matter how uncomfortable or radical it may be to find a solution in 2021 that doesn't involve government regulating what women do with their own bodies. There is a march for women's rights this Saturday, October 2nd. They are taking place in most states, and I urge you to look up where the one in your state is taking place and show up. Fight for women to have the right to do what they feel is best for their own body and their own life. I am still not sure whether the life of a fetus is more important than the living woman. If that doesn't show women how low their worth is considered by government and society as a whole, I don't know what else does. We can't stand for this, women. We have to fight for our rights. We have to stop men and government from telling us what we can and cannot do with our own body. We have to start coming up with better solutions to the issue, and the conversation needs to start now.